Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a Public Works podcast. My name is Joseph Blackman, and today I got a real treat for you. His name is Roy Tal, and he is the CTO, the Chief Technology Officer for CityRover. Roy, say what's up to everybody.
Hey, how's it going, Joseph?
It's going good, man. Going good, going good. So, you and I spoke on the phone before, and you kind of told me what CityRover is, what problem you're solving. But I want you to tell it again. Kind of talk about what CityRover is, and I guess the impetus of why it was started.
Sure, yeah. So CityRover is an artificial intelligence camera that cities can put in their vehicles. It transforms any vehicle into essentially a data collection technology, and it helps cities to run their business smarter and more efficiently by finding issues and helping them to resolve them faster, even before the public gets to experience them.
Nice, nice. So I love you said data. A lot of the public works departments we work with, they love to have the data because it allows them to make more, I guess, pointed decisions or better decisions off the data that's created. And it's so cool to have, like you said, if you put a camera on every piece of equipment that or every vehicle that's going around with your city, you get so much data. So where what was the I guess the kick in the butt or that like why was it started? What was the driver to say, you know what, if I put a camera on every single fleet vehicle, the city workers can operate better? Where did that stem from?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. So our company actually used to be involved before moving into the public sector. Let's say for municipal operations and public works, we're really well known for security systems and provision of like CCTV systems in airports, transit authorities like subways, train stations, and so on. So having worked with cameras and basically having a lot of data that's being recorded and a lot of data that people would have to sit and I'm going to say aimlessly watch monitors for hours and hours. We wanted to bring some intelligence to those cameras. So we use our expertise in camera systems to kind of get into artificial intelligence. That was around 2019. And we saw this technology and we thought, wow, that works really, really, really great. I remember even that we looked at showing pictures to AI back in the day of animals. That's kind of how we started. The first thing we had is we had kind of like it's called an animal classifier. You show a picture of an animal to the AI and it tells you what animal it is. And not only did it tell you what animal it was, for example, we show it an elephant, it will tell you if it's like an Indian elephant, or there's all these different types of elephants that you could figure out. So it was very, very smart at picking very particular things. And we thought, wow, this looks really, really good. So we started to incrementally invest in this technology. And then we started to think, okay, what are some other applications of AI that we could use other than just security? So around that time, I think there's a lot of times where you read on the news that the roads are really bad and full of potholes. And we thought that seems like a really common problem. There's a lot of articles about it. It's a really big pain point for a lot of cities and residents to deal with. So we figured that'd be a good place to start. So what we did is we reached out to the city where our business is located. The city is called the city of Richmond Hill. It's a mid-sized city with about 200,000 people. We asked to meet with their public works operations department, had some great meetings with them, showing them the AI and how it can pick up all sort of things, and asked them, do you think something like this would be useful, right? The first thing we wanted to do is validate, is this a real problem that needs to be solved? And the answer was yes. And then they started to ask us, can you also do this and this and this? And we really saw that there's some appetite to solving all sorts of problems with it. So from this, we started to kind of collect more data and build a product around this technology. So that's kind of how it started, with pothole detection and just this something that we wanted to check.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Um, you're familiar with CAPTCHA, right? CAPTCHA is where if you're listening to it, you've probably dealt with it before, where it'll give you like 9 pictures and it'll say, okay, click all the boxes with the school bus, and it'll be like some school buses and a couple of them you got to click on to make sure.
Yeah.
And I read an article before that was a way of teaching, I guess, the internets or AI or whatever, of what item can potentially look like. Even like the captcha, I don't know, 5, 7, 10 years ago, would be like some type of scribbles, and you have to find what numbers were in there. That was allowing us to teach, with all the data Just think thousands of people are using that every minute, right? So it's teaching the computers or the AI about what things are supposed to look like. You're the chief technology officer. I mean, how crazy is it to come up with a concept like this to be able to find potholes? Aside from like an animal, but a pothole in the ground. And then what's kind of I would say whenever you're in a sales cycle, you're trying to pitch it to somebody, there's usually they're thinking like, oh, I call BS on that. So what are the kind of I guess pushback you get from such a cool technology or something that's that I guess legit that you have to deal with?
Yeah, those are great questions. So first of all, like you said, first of all, Google is very smart because they've used everybody to work for them and label their pictures for them. So yes, I read this too. And I guess when you have, I don't know, 99% market share, you can do this and make
Oh
people
yes.
jump through hoops or captcha, I guess in this case, in order to get what they want and work for them. For us, we had to go through a similar process, but we have our own data technicians or data annotators. That's kind of the position that we call that. It's people who are tasked with looking at the picture and essentially labeling it as a data set that's then fed into some sort of an algorithm, artificial intelligence algorithm that processes the data and learns from it. So we do have our own staff that does this, but we do rely, for example, on some information from the system to know if we're doing good or not good. That's improving. So we're not as creative as Google and making everybody work for us. We have we have our own employees, but yeah, the process is similar to how Google was using this, if they've used it the same way that you mentioned. And in terms of
Sure.
just like the application that we have approached cities with, I'd say 4 years ago, what people were interested in was a little bit different than what it is now. So when we started, it was before AI was such a big buzz as it is today. So I think 4 years ago, things were a little bit milder with the AI. There was also COVID, which kind of stole, I guess, the headlines a little bit back then compared to where we are now. So back then, the real question was, does it work? Like, okay, if I put this camera, is it going to find it? Does it find the pothole? Does it really work? Because the idea was, we were not known back then, and somebody comes and tells you there's an app that's going to find for you potholes automatically, you're a little suspicious. Okay, this guy says it does it. So a few things that
Yeah.
really help us. Yeah, people don't trust a random person that talks to them and says and promises some stuff they've never heard before. So some of the things that helped us, because it was such a new technology, we had some really great cities that we worked with that were happy to showcase how they're using it. So there's another neighboring city that we worked with, slightly larger city, about 350,000 people, called the city of Markham. And what they've done is, for example, they've demonstrated the use of the technology and they've made an announcement about it, and then news have come in. And one thing that's really unique about our AI camera is that we can actually also display the information on a screen in real time. So the idea is that if you're sitting in a vehicle and you're looking at the camera and the screen is on, you can see with your own eyes that the camera actually does detect the potholes. There's no smoke and mirrors behind. What you see is what you get. So I think the combination of being able to show that the technology is real, kind of like you have a chat GPT conversation and it responds to you immediately. You don't need to wait 5 days to see it. You send the inquiry and it comes back immediately, which makes you feel something looks legitimate there. It looks like it's a real product. And the second thing is, of course, cities that showcase this technology with the fact that it's shown on news and media, that really helps to build support. And that helped us to kind of increase the number of partnerships that we've had with more and more cities.
Oh man, that's great PR when the city says, "Hey, we partner with them and they do a great job. Do more business with them." And then I
Yeah.
also like, unlike Theranos, right? You guys show how it actually works, and it works, and then they go, and then there's that, that instant buy-in or believability when you could say, "Hey, this is what it looks like on screen, and here's it being detected on screen. It actually works." Nobody can really refute that. But since you're the CEO, I want in the public workspace, there might not be too many people who know what a CTO does or is. So, give us a snapshot of a random day for Roy. Like, what are you doing all day? Are you pounding that code on a black and white screen? Is it HTML you're staring at all day? Uh, and then what kind of roles or what you do from day to day? Like, what are you over?
Yeah, that's great. So I don't code as much as I'd like to. I did code as a hobby. It's never been my full-time job, but I've spent many hours at home coding for fun, including this animal classifier I told you about. That was one of my hobby experiments, which I very proudly brought here and showed people, and they were like, "Wow, this works really good." But just about my job. It's really about partnership and innovation and strategic direction that we have. So what this means is it means that my job is about finding opportunities where our technology can make the best impact for both our customers and for our company. So what a typical day looks like for me is I have like in terms of I break my day to, let's say, three different types of kind of cycles. So I have a daily cycle. So daily cycle is I show up in the morning, I just pop my screen open, I see if I have any meetings today that I need to prepare for to get some material ready. I throw it in on a to-do list. I may throw in one or two items that I don't really want to do, some administrative tasks, some things that I don't really want to get into, but I have to get them done. So those get thrown in too. And then I check if there's any big tasks that require, let's say, a 1 or 2 hour block that I'm uninterrupted. I see if I can book some slots in the week or in the day to tackle those. So kind of like every day, I just try to make sure that I have some productivity, doing some things that I want to do, some things that I need to do, and some things that require work, like output. On a weekly basis, as a chief technology officer here, I try to have meetings with different teams. We're trying to have the meeting small, meaning there's not a lot of people that are sitting and wasting their time. It'd be 3 people that have, or 4 people that have action items as a result of the meeting. But the goals of these weekly meetings is to take the work that we have and track it on a weekly basis. So we have tasks. The tasks are supposed to get broken to something that's going to take a week or less to get done. We prioritize the work. So that could be internal projects that we have to try new things. This could be features that customers have asked for that or even issues that need to get resolved for them. And what we do is we will have some meetings during the week that we just kind of sit around and go through these short-term tasks and see if we're progressing or not progressing. If we're progressing, awesome. Then either we invest more or expand it and go to the next phase. If we're not progressing, this kind of goes on a watch list. And if you see, we like to say a person is spinning their wheels, they were working and working and working on a task, but it's not yielding results. We either shelf that task or rotate it or try to approach it that way. And on a monthly basis, like I will have in the beginning of the month, kind of like a report from each one of the groups that I work with, just to see, what are some really big pain points that our partners in the public sector talked about that we want to try to tackle this month. And we see that there's an opportunity to test it with them. I'll talk about that in a second. The second is we'll see if we have any achievements that we want to communicate in terms of new functionalities or things that are ready for testing. And we'll also see if there's, like I said, if we spend a lot of time on something and it's not yielding results, then we may need to reshuffle some tasks. So what I said in terms of like shuffling the work is when we work with cities, similar to us, they also have a lot of projects and a lot of things that they're working on. And sometimes they have capacity to try things with us and to explore it in terms of like staff availability and the ability to put this in and try it. And sometimes they don't. So sometimes what happens is a city that's been interested to do something is kind of busy, and then they say, okay, we're ready. So sometimes when that happens, we just try to kind of say like, okay, this city wants to do this now. Let's take this other thing that nobody asked for right now, but these guys want to do it. Let's try it with them, see if it's yielding results, and then we go. Now, usually we try to find champions with the public sector for each thing that they're asking for. And then when that's kind of getting to a point that it's useful and the city learns how to use it and they say, yeah, it works great, we start introducing this to more and more cities. So that's kind of like the process. So that kind of describes, I guess, like my average day or week.
How do you avoid feature creep? Feature creep, I'm familiar with the concept, is where you deliver a product or a service and they say, hey, it would be really cool if we could add this to it, or it would be really cool if we could add this feature. And then you look at your notes after that meeting, you got 3 features. And to them, it might be, hey, can you just make it do this or change the color red or do that? But for you, it might be 3 months worth of development and plus another, $500 a month versus a, software stack just to be able to deliver on that feature. What's kind of your process to saying yes, or do you say no, or how does that work internally for you guys?
So first of all, I'm not a believer in saying no. I first of all like to hear what is it that they want and why they want it and does it make sense. So the first thing I want to do is I want to understand why they need it. It's not like a yes or a no. It's like what's the reason that you need it and how is it helping you, and I understand this. Because there is, if somebody asks for something, there's value for that capability for that person, or at least there's a thought of a value. So I want to understand what is it that they want. After that, what happens is all requests essentially go on a board. We have this board basically that has a list of all the wish lists of any any person we've talked to, and we try to kind of group them together based on a theme, and then we assign to them priorities. And the priorities would be if it's something that all or most customers could use, then it would be a higher priority than if it's something that some customers could use, which would be a higher priority if just one guy asked for it. And it's a very particular use case for a particular place. So it goes on the board, it gets prioritized, and then, as you said, there's a complexity to it. So some things, sometimes there's something that one guy asks for, which will take a day to finish, and sometimes there's something that a lot of people ask for that will take a year to finish. So we're not gonna. We may just take the request of the one guy that takes a day and just get it done because it makes sense at least for one person, and there's value. But then the stuff that's a year will get broken down to smaller tasks, and then that will push it a little further. So that's kind of how we balance it.
I like it. I like it. And to all the public works supervisors, directors, superintendents listening now, I'm sure they've had times where they had to implement a new software, and that new software could take 6 months, a year just to implement it. Whether they officially do business with the company has to send people out and show everybody how to use it, and they have to start filling it out and integrate it in with everything. What's the ease of use, the ease of entry, like the 0 to 1, the actually from the starting line to the first step? What's that look like for you guys, and just to kind of tell them like, hey, we move pretty fast and you can get this done in a decent way.
So the cities that we work with, so first of all, they need to learn about our technology. So from the moment they're learning about it, they need to think if it fits within uh, what they want to achieve. So sometimes they just want to see it. Sometimes they actually heard from somebody that it works for them and they want to use it. Sometimes they learn about it. So based on that, they get some information. And then what happens is we do offer, for example, in Canada and the United States, free trials. So the idea is they get the camera. We ship the camera to them. It's so easy that they can install the camera directly themselves in any vehicle that they have. We have this technology deployed on street sweepers, patrol vehicles, basically inspector vehicles, garbage trucks, even buses have this technology now. So it's any vehicle, and basically once it goes on the window, it starts to collect information automatically. It uses cellular connection, which means you don't need to touch it. You just put it in once. It's installed kind of like a dash cam, and you leave it alone. And then you just log into the web, and the information starts showing up automatically. Because it is web, there's no need for very extensive IT involvement. They can just log into a portal, and then they can basically see the information. And our company has gone through a lot of like IT cloud reviews. It's secure and meets all the information security requirements of some of the largest cities in the United States and Canada. So once they have this information available, there's different levels of complexity. So if you just want to basically look at the picture and basically just like print it, there's a zero training you need. You just log in, you click on it, approve, reject, print. That's it. So it's like 4 or 5 buttons. You can start using it. And there's other things as well that you can do in terms of reporting and emails and integration. So for those, we offer also training. So usually after the system is installed, it starts to collect issues. Examples of issues that it can collect, for example, for incidents, can be potholes, somebody dumped garbage on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere, basically damaged manholes that can damage snowplows, or even metal plates that can damage snowplows. All sorts of different issues get picked up automatically. And then for the training, we can then show them how they can use it. So one of the things that initially we did is we just found the issues for our partners in the public sector, but we had a lot of requests to say, it's very nice you're giving us all these problems, but how is this helping us to fix them? So that's where we built all these extra capabilities that allow you to streamline how you do this. You can email it to people, You have an app that you can close the issue with. So there's all sorts of tools that are built in to help them to do it. So it can be as easy as just print it and give it to people. So it automates the inspection and allows you to hand out the work to the folks, or it can be very, very um, customized to your need.
I like that. You're not just pointing out problems, but you help them, I guess, put together a viable solution, or at least get the process started for them to be able to prioritize and figure out what they want to tackle first. That's pretty cool. All right. I need a story from Roy of when something went wrong under your watch, what you did to fix it, and then what lessons you learned from it to apply to your future development of the software.
Yeah, so the first, like I guess I talked about it, but I can elaborate on it a little bit further. So we used to call the CITYROVER a pothole detection system because that's what it was doing in the beginning. You have a camera and you can see on the screen a pothole and it's flashing and it takes a picture and it puts it great. Basically, it was a nice name that describes what the product does, but there's a few things that we didn't know about at the time. So first of all, the word pothole is not just a pothole in the sense of like a pavement deficiency, but it's also a risky word to use sometimes for cities because sometimes it implies liability, right? If there's a pothole on the road, if there's a hazard, and somebody hits the rim on the vehicle, they may be liable for some costs depending on where the city is located and what's the law like and what's the regulation like and so on. So by calling it the pothole detection system, we essentially said, hey, we have a technology that will find for you a bunch of um, hazards around the city, but it doesn't help you to fix them. It just helps you to find them. So essentially you have like a map that's starting to flash with red everywhere. And then you think like, how do I take care of this? There's so much information. You're basically just putting like a target on all these things. So since then, so yeah, the thing that's gone wrong is we went with this and then we kept seeing that we're going through this, I'm gonna call it a barrier of like having to educate them. Well, we call it a pothole, but it's not always what you would consider a pothole. It could be also a chip or a delamination or a crack, but it's all bundled as pothole. So now we have a name that you can call it like a deficiency or hazard. It doesn't need to be not a hazard, a crack. So it doesn't need to be called a pothole. So it allows them to kind of call it within the same terminology that they have. And this is just our initial inexperience coming into this sector, which we were new to at the time. We didn't understand that pothole is actually something that may be governed by some regulations in some places, okay? And the second thing is, like I said, it's the detection. So as I said, we started to have maps that are starting to kind of like flicker like Christmas trees with all these like pins everywhere with all these issues. And they're like, we said, hey, here's a map of all your potholes. And the guy's like, this is great, but all my crews are out there. They don't have laptops. They're dealing with tar all day. If you saw their fingers, they can be really sticky with all the stuff they're dealing with. Or they're using gloves. They can't use a laptop to start like closing things. So how can you guys help us with this? So they're basically, that's where we come up with some different tools that they can do. Like they can group them and take care of them after their shift, or they can print them and then and just highlight it. And there's an ID afterwards that they can use to close it. So we came up with all these tools that basically became a new product, right? We started with one product, which was the detection technology. And as a result of the thing that's gone wrong, which basically we had some let's call it growing pains with the technology, we've come up with a new technology that helps them to resolve it and that now they can use. So we spun it for better and we've learned from it since then. Yeah.
Nice, nice, nice. How does Roy keep up with everything, man? I mean, I wouldn't say the roads and streets industry has. I mean, there's been innovations in it, but I'm sure there's a good amount you have to learn just about the application in itself versus, what you do or what service product you offer. So how does Roy keep his sword sharp in this industry? Like what gets you out of bed and says, I need to learn more about public works and streets versus, coding or your product and service.
So funny you asked this. So the first thing actually, when I started knowing nothing, I feel like today I'm not going to call myself an expert, but I know more than I knew 4 years ago when I started. But when I started, I actually looked for podcasts for public works at the time, and that was around 2020, and there was nothing. So first of all, I just want to applaud you for coming up with this idea, because I thought, hey, there's nothing for public works when I looked at 2020, and now I looked again, and you have like, I don't know, 200 episodes of professionals you've spoken to. So really well done, and I love the fact that you've made a resource that people can basically look and find different aspects of public works, whether it's operations or asset management or water, roads, and so on. So that's great. For me today, I think like the experience, the learning nowadays is mostly on the job. So the best way for me to learn is to have contact with our partners in the public sector. So I regularly meet with them. I meet with different people at different positions. I'll have meetings with the folks that are actually fixing the roads. I'll have meetings with the supervisors, the managers, the directors, the commissioners, whoever is sitting on the meeting. For me, it's an opportunity to learn what is it that that person is interested in. And in terms of, like, let's say public works and operations, this is where I get the most. And I usually work with them also to kind of understand when we do the project. Sometimes we want to review it with them and understand what was successful or not successful. And that kind of allows us to understand key performance indicators and things that they use, our partners in the public sector use to measure the success of our project. And on a personal level, like I said, every day, same as I said, meeting with the folks in the public sector, I learned from the people that I work with here at CITYROVER as well. So it doesn't matter who I work with. I have a lot of engagement and a lot of different things that I'm doing, and I feel like every day is a professional development day for me.
Nice, nice. What would you say is the biggest misconception about what you do or about the product or the service you offer? Like, what do people normally get wrong when you, or like, let's say one of your best friends try to explain your service. What would they get wrong in explaining it to somebody?
So if we're looking at explaining this to our to my friends, I'd say don't know how government operations work. So I think if you're speaking from the public, they would think, for example, that the public concern is a concern for the public works folks, because they do want to keep the road safe, and they do want to whatever the public cares about, the cities care about. The cities are aware that the public wants safe and smooth rides on the roads, but what the cities are more concerned with are how to apply this technology, how to use it, how to allocate it to their staff, how to train their staff, how to disseminate this information. So the outcome is the same for both people that you're talking to, but the like my friends might say, like, oh, you could just have people go and drive around and pick up potholes and send this to the cities. And I'd say it doesn't work, because the cities need to know how to use the system to fix it. You can't just give them a map that looks like a Christmas tree with potholes. So that's kind of, there's a little bit, I'm going to say, of a gap between having to fix the issue and what you expect that it would be there. And just, I'd say, just another misconception, just in terms of AI in general, is I think that people think that AI is here to take jobs away. I personally don't think this is the case. I think that AI just helps us to increase our productivity in terms of like the output of how much we can do every day. But it never replaces a person completely. So the same with our technology. It doesn't find everything in anything, and if it sees something it's never seen before, it's not going to work. So for example, it may be very good at finding a lot of little potholes, but if you have an asteroid that hit the road and left a crater in there, just as an example, or an earthquake that the whole road is now broken, it's never seen anything like this. It would not know what to do with it. So you may not pick a giant crater pothole. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, like, there you always need people, but what it does help the people that are out there is the inspectors are now able to find more issues. And if they have more time to if they have more time because of some automation, that time can then be used to resolve the issues. And I think that's what people do best. We're not very good at doing repetitive tasks that expect us to sit and stare at the screen or on the road for many hours. We're better at, like, finding problems, prioritizing them. This area has a lot of recurring issues, let's take care of it. This neighborhood, there's a lot of complaints, let's do it. And I think that's where AI supports us and doesn't take our work away, but just makes us do it better.
Yeah. As of right now, let's say you look back through all the clients, customers that you have, who would be your avatar? Is it like the city of LA, who is 2 billion people, 50 million cars, and let's say they're always behind in regards to potholes? Or is it that suburb of like Tennessee, and they're brand new and they just want to make sure they get it dialed in when in regards to potholes? Like, who would your ideal customer be?
So that's a great question. So let's start with what's our vision is. So our vision is that every city could use this technology. And there's only so many, as you say, LAs out there. There's not a lot of extremely large cities. There's a lot more small, mid-size, or large cities. So our goal is to make as much of an impact with as many cities as possible, which means that we listen to all cities equally. Of course, it's nice to have big cities to work with because the scale and the impact that you could do is really, really good. But for us, we take it just as seriously if a city of 5,000 people says we want this, because there's a lot more cities of 5,000 people than there are cities of 5 million people, for example. So for us, there's no ideal customer, it's just a city that we can help them to transform their operations. We do also have what we like to say, it's not an ideal customer, but it's an ideal time. So each one of these cities, in order for us to work with, we want to work with cities as little as 1,000 people and as high as 5 million plus or whatever. But not all cities can work with us today. Some cities may have budget constraints. Some cities may have not enough staff or not enough roads or not enough infrastructure to use this technology today. They may be involved in different projects, like you say, that will take them 6 to 12 months to finish the implementation. Or maybe they're tied up with procurement of a huge machine yet, and they want to first get their staff trained on it and using it before they move on to something else. So for us, it's not really about an ideal customer. It's about an ideal time. When will our system work best with that city's availability and staff and budget, and basically that's for us the opportunity to work with them to transform the way that they do things.
Dude, I am totally stealing that, your thought process on not who, but like when. Like, there's only a matter of time when they're gonna do business with you. It's just, when does it make sense? I love that attitude, or that mindset shift, because again, a lot of people do have services like myself, yourself, who could do business with every city in the planet, but it's kind of a large nut to chew. But if you frame it as a win, that makes it easier for the city. If they do, like you come across this all the time. Hey, we love what you do. We want to get it done, but wait 18 months for our budget cycle. And now you know that, okay, 18 months from now, we're going to have some action. So it's not a what, it's a when. I love that. I always like to leave a space on the show for you to thank mentors that you had along your journey. And then also I want you to give kind of a word of inspiration and motivation to those who you're in business with, those street supervisors, those street superintendents who are out there in the trenches or fighting the battles. Give them a little pick me up.
Yeah. So for mentors, I have too many people that I learn from. So like I say, every person that I meet and I talk to is a mentor. That includes you, Joseph, as well. So I learn from everybody, and I take something from every encounter that I have. I do have, I do recognize a lot of support from our ownership here at CITYROVER for basically allowing us to grow this business unit and go into this new area that we went into. And of course, the team here that they work with, we work with a great team where I get up in the morning and I can't wait to come to work and see the same people that I see. Some of these people I've seen them for 18 years, the same person every day here, assuming they're not on vacation. And then we do have a lot of new, I'm going to call it partnerships that we have with people in the public sector. Like the cities I told you about in the beginning, there's a lot of people that I've worked with there in different capacities that have supported us in different ways. And today we still have more and more cities that we're doing different things. So some cities that 4 years ago were not available to work with us, as we say, it was a no at the time, but it's not really a no, it's a not right now. Now they're really active and working with us really actively to change the way that things are coming and create new technology. So there's a lot of people I'd like to thank, and I think I basically take all your slot here for this. So we'll just leave it with just a big thanks to our friends in the public sector as well. And just for a word of motivation, I saw this somewhere that basically somebody said that like success is not a comfortable process, and the idea is that unless you win the lottery, right? So, which most people don't win the lottery. Most people have to work for their success. So success is not an easy process. It requires change, and change is also not a comfortable process. So if you're doing something that's a little bit challenging and a little bit uncomfortable, it means you're on the right track to improving yourself or your organization.
Dude, love it. Thanks for that. I think a lot of us needed that today. So thank you for that. Um, where are you based out of? Where do you sit at? What city, state?
For me, I sit in Richmond Hill, which is based in Ontario in Canada.
Okay. Let's say I'm coming to Richmond Hill and I text you ahead of time. I say, hey, Roy, where can I go to get the best burger in Richmond Hill? Where are you going to send me?
So we're located just outside of the city of Toronto. So the general area has about 7 million people. So there's a lot of burger joints here. So you have some selection. There's like the well-known things like Five Guys or Heroes, The Works, Burger Priest. All the usual suspects are here. If you want something that's a little bit more memorable, you've made all the trip here to Canada, and you wanna get some scenery or like a nice venue. But the burger may not be as good as like the burger specialty places, but there's like a nice location downtown Toronto. It's called like a beer bistro, which is very nice. There's also a historical district that's called the Distillery District. It used to be a bunch of distilleries from many years ago, and now it's all been transformed to restaurants. And there's like a microbreweries there, so that would be a nice place for you to visit as well. So yeah, if you're coming, I'll show you whatever your pick is. I'll take you there.
Sure thing, sure thing. All right, how can we find more about City Rover? How can we find, or how can one find how to do business with you guys, get in contact with you, all that fun stuff?
So we have a website, cityrover.com, and it's basically spelled the way that it sounds. We also have a LinkedIn page, so you can visit us on LinkedIn. You can contact me on LinkedIn, and otherwise we are generally in the major public works expos. So if it is PWX or some of the largest ones in the States, just look for City Rover and stop by, and feel free to ask some questions and learn more about our technology.
Sure thing. I'll be at PWX, so I'll stop by and bug you for a little bit.
So will I. I look forward to seeing you there. Come and say hi.
Sure thing. Roy, thank you for hopping on the podcast with us. Thank you for sharing your wealth of information and knowledge with it. To all the listeners out there, make sure you share this with somebody in your city, or if you got potholes in your city, send this to your street superintendents. Get the conversation started. Even if they do business 10 years from now, I'm sure Roy will still be happy with that. And again, Roy, once again, thank you for hopping on the show. This has been the Public Works Podcast, and thank you, everybody, for tuning in.